Hello, welcome to Unbearable, episode 18. This is my review and recommendation for the Reacher TV series. So, spoiling my own review, I'm going to recommend it because it was excellent, borderline on awesome. A couple of pacing flaws in the middle, which I'll maybe discuss at the end. But otherwise, it was excellent, as I said. And the question is, why did Amazon succeed with this series, whereas other recent adaptations failed, okay, or weren't very good in some cases? So there are two major considerations to think about here, and one have to do with I'll put it this way: the question is, does Reach succeed as an adaptation? So to do that, we need to know some information about the source. Okay, so who is Jack Reacher? Now I'll have these links below so people can reference this if you haven't read the books or whatever. But on my screen here, I'll call up some stuff so we can look at it. And here obviously you see the Jack Reacher book series exists. It's been around since basically 1997. Okay, I thought it was first I thought it was like 1989, but don't trust my memory on some stuff. And it written by a gentleman named Lee Child, which is the pen name for another author or person named Jim Grant. Okay, so it's a series about the character Jack Reacher, who basically, I have to spoil the books a little bit. This is only the background of Reacher. He was a major in the U.S. military, and he was an MP of military police, and he was an elite level military police, and he was a top level soldier. Not special forces per se, but as far as U.S. Army guys go, the combination of his abilities and the training make him a top level guy. And at the end of his term, so to speak, when he was able to retire, he found himself not feeling particularly connected to the country he loved. So he basically retired and went on a walkabout and travels from town to town, investigating America, looking at all sorts of things interesting, like music or culture or history or music or famous places and whatever, because he wants to try to connect to and understand the country he is loyal to and loves. If you want an example of a type of character going on this sort of walkabout journey, those of you who are old enough remember the Kung Fu, the legendary journey, Kung Fu from the 1970s, or even Hercules, the legendary journeys from the 1990s. Similar types of series in terms of what the main character was doing. So Lee Child has written something like, well, it's always Wikipedia tell us, has written like 25 Reacher novels so far, and more coming, plus a bunch of short stories and novellas and whatnot. And I read the first four. I enjoyed them all, but to me they felt like just another adventure of Jack Reacher. Like there wasn't an overall arc to what the character was doing. So probably will read more of them in the future. I didn't feel compelled to read all the way through the series and keep current with it. The tone of the series tends to be a cross between like military thriller with police procedural type of thing. Okay, and so the Reacherverse, as I mentioned, your military or high-tech thriller, police procedural, a little bit of mystery and action thrown into it. That's one of the elements of the Reacherverse books. Okay, Reacher as a character, this is very critical. Okay, he will come across initially to the reader, the first person you encounter him, both as a character in the book and as a reader or a watcher, as emotionally stunted. But as you kind of experience his perspective, especially novels, because some of them are written from the first person, you'll kind of get the sense that stuntedness is just this sort of kind of way of protecting himself from not having very much family left, and not having, not really having connected to anything beyond his military career, and that's why he's on Walkabout. But as you understand him better, you'll see that his demeanor it's kind of a balance between stoicism, pragmatism, and his earnest desire to explore and experience his homeland. Because he's really a decent guy. Um, Another factoid about the book series that has to be captured if we did an adaptation is you don't mess with Reacher. Well, he's very restrained from violence, will not initiate it, will do everything he can to avoid it, and he has a little desire to interfere in the business of other people. Once you cross a certain threshold with him, if you hurt one of his friends or if you try to kill him or whatever, you cross it and Reacher's going to mess you up or kill you. Okay? He prefers to follow the law and get people arrested, but, murder a child in front of Reacher and you probably aren't going to make it to jail. Although he will kill you in the context of subduing you, like catching you to take you to jail. Another thing to note, Reacher values innocence, and he values highly ethical people who do their jobs professionally and with great moral character. And also the last point to remember, Reacher is not superhuman. He has not any sort of military secret genetic enhancement or anything like that. He wins because of his combination of his training, his experience, the fact that he is pretty great in shape. He's tall and well built to keep him in shape, and he preps. Reacher always preps. He always has a plan. He has contingencies, and when he goes to do something, he goes in there with a plan. As I mentioned, I read the first 4 books, and that's kind of the sense of those elements I just mentioned. If you're going to adapt it, you have to keep those elements core when you do the TV or movie adaptation. Okay, and I will say that the movie adaptation for Tom Cruise himself, even though he was too short, he's like 8 inches shorter than Reacher and not built like him, got Reacher's character down pretty well. The stuff I mentioned, even the way Reacher moves, which I'll maybe talk about later, the way Reacher fights and whatnot. He has to move a certain way. When you read the books and you see Reacher is fighting in a very efficient manner. It's hard to explain. I did some high school wrestling, so I kind of understand a little bit of it myself. I'm not an expert in hand-to-hand combat or anything, so I don't go that far. But if you have any degree of training in any sort of fighting, you kind of understand what I mean. Reacher fights very, very efficiently. No wasted movements, precision strikes, and he knows exactly what he's going to do when he fights. And that Cruise got that to a T. I do recommend at least the first one, the first Reacher movie with Tom Cruise. The second one as a movie wasn't so good, but Cruise was still a great performance in it. So let's go to back to we're talking about the TV series. So the second question was, does Reacher succeed as a series? To the second part of does Reacher succeed as a series? We need to know what elements personally I'm going to judge this by. Okay, so here's a very obvious one. As conclusion, does the season make you wish you had more to watch, or does it make you wish they had cut it shorter in some capacities? Okay, so here's what Reacher does. The reason Reacher isn't excellent. Somewhere in the middle, it kind of there's a thing when you write something, or like I dungeon master, game master for say role playing games. You want to make sure you're not throwing stuff into your stories that you're creating that artificially stretch them. Like, if you were doing a dungeon for players and have to go through this mine to kill the evil wizard or whatever, you don't want to have like every door have a trap, have a complex puzzle they have to resolve just because you want to stretch your 1 hour of content to 3 hours, and so have kind of the players doing math problems or whatever, just to get through each door. They do that a little bit in the middle of this. This show it's pretty much the first novel, so even it's been a few years since I read it, but I mostly remembered it. And I'm watching it right in the middle. It seemed like taking things that occurred very quickly in the book and maybe making them take like almost a whole episode to resolve in the show and the problem comes in between episodes 4 and 6, if I'm remembering correctly, or 5 and 6. For some reason, 5 and 6 in particular felt stretched out. They could have been condensed into one episode. Now, I'm not complaining because only one episode worth of stretching it, but most importantly, at the end, I did feel they did a little too much in that regard. But I did want more Reacher, as in more seasons after at the end. So the next question is, and it's a very fine point. do you hate the portrayal of the primary and secondary characters? And I don't mean that do you love or hate the character themselves. I mean, do you hate the way they were presented to you? I mean, as an example, in the movie Die Hard, the two primary characters basically are, John McClane and the villain, right? Alan Rickman played, Krieger. I can't remember his name right now. Hans Gruber. Okay, I mean, we hate Hans Gruber as a character. He's evil. You're supposed to hate him and want him to get his just desserts, but we love the way he was presented to us. So in that light, do we? Reacher's obviously the main character here, and your villainous main characters. It's not all. You don't always have an uber arch villain or whatever. Like this book really did. This TV show and the book didn't really have it that way. It was a group of villains. Slight spoiler there, but you really wanted these villains to be taken down. They really did the dirty to the good guys and to the innocent people, and it was portrayed very well and very realistically. In terms of the setting. Okay, I'll get to more of that in a little bit. Right, and my next point: did the episode's directors annoy me with moronic camera techniques, like constantly cutting away from scenes, or filming action scenes so close you can't see what's going on, or use what I call the moronic shaky cam technique? Like, if you remember, the Blair Witch Project, where they had the camera would constantly shake, when you try, or even the worst example was Cloverleaf, where they would just shake constantly. Like, even when the character's standing still, the camera would shake, so you never could 100% see clear what's going on. None of that was present here. There were no annoyances in terms of trying to watch the material. The fight scenes were done, I'm going to say 9 out of 10. When they happened, and they happened within the context of the plot. There were no gratuitous fight scenes. Reacher as a character doesn't do those sort of things, like just beat people up with the hell of it. Number 4 is the show preaching at me, and I'm not so much talking about the wokeism. I'm saying is whatever the show, the like the main the theme of each episode and the meta theme of the season. Is it trying to smash me in the head with what it's about? Is it trying to say that, if we're about, wine, for example, is it trying to make me think that this particular flavor of wine is like the most glorious thing in existence? Like, the characters might think that. And as a reader, that's a plot element for me. Or as a viewer, that's a plot element. The plot element should not be more important than the plot. There's another way to translate this. Are there any deal-breaking moments? What's a deal-breaking moment? A deal-breaking moment is when you're in the middle of this kind of relates to number 6, which was able to suspend my sense of disbelief for her show. 6 is really the summary of all things above. So a deal-breaking moment would be something like, to me, the one that people will probably criticize me for, in Lord of the Return of the King, when the army of the undead, that is not what the army of the undead does in the novels, okay? When they show up and act like piranha, I actually laughed in the theater, and the rest of it was good enough, the theater version of it, that I got back into the movie, but I literally laughed so hard that the parts that I just walk out because the rest is going to suck. I'm never able to get back into the movie after the scene. But luckily, that was so brief, and they managed to use Gimli and Legolas to distract, and other characters distract you from the stupid piranha or aspects of the Army of the Undead. So, I'm sure we can all come up with those sort of moments where the flow of the movie breaks, and you have to really, and your sense of your involvement in the film or TV show disappears, And the last part, number 6, was able to suspend my sense of disbelief for the entire show. And for this one, like I said, yes. If it weren't for the pacing issues between episodes 4 and 6 somewhere in there, or they could have compressed it or added some other plot, there were a couple of plot elements from the book that I recall dimly that they didn't use, or they could have maybe put those in there to stretch better. If they'd done either of those things, then this would be a 10 out of 10. As it is, a 9 out of 10 for me, this season of Reacher. So we get back to our primary question: why didn't Alan succeed with this adaptation but fail with others? And it comes down to one thing. And if you look at every single one of these adaptations that they do, and authors out there, learn your lesson for this, okay? The number one reason that this show succeeded was because Lee Child was the executive producer on this and maintained control to make sure that this series stayed true to the books he wrote and the character he created. That's the fundamental truth of it. Would it have been impossible for him not to be involved for the control to still exist? Yes. Is it likely? No. That being said, I strongly recommend you guys watch this. The good content that produced needs to be watched. Personally, if this is released on Blu-ray, I will buy it because I prefer to own my media, not just watch it on Amazon Prime. In case they ever alter this for some stupid reason, because I don't think they should alter it unless they do some editing down in the middle, cut an episode out or something. But again, 9 out of 10. Go watch the Jack Reacher series. The first season is based on The Killing Floor. Season 2, they're doing casting. The second book is called Die Trying. You can go read the series too if you want. Like I said, you can go to my prior comments on that. To my thoughts on that. It's been renewed and they're casting on it. Thank God. That's the unbearable. That's the unbearable episode 18. Thank you for listening. If you like it, smash that like button. Please give me some likes. If you dislike it, do the dislike. Let me know what's going on. Drop some comments down below and subscribe if you subscribe too, so we get some, so you can hear more from me. I am out of here.